WbTC is the most common way to use Bitcoin and DeFi today, banking the unbanked, and everyone can become their own kind of mini financial institution. Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot more regulatory clarity. So we work with companies in the United States as an experiment. People don't like to think of it like that, but it's still an experiment.
Hello and welcome to Token 2049 Dubai. My name is Madiha Khan for Voice of Crypto, and today I have with me Mr. Aki. Thank you so much for joining us over here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What I really want to start off with is your entire journey into the world of crypto and Web3. What has that been like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a VC back in 2011. I started an AI marketing company for 8 years. And 3 years ago, I came to crypto full time. And I wanted to build on Bitcoin because Bitcoin, when I came to the space, and I had heard of Bitcoin in 2011, I'd followed it. But when I came to the space 3 years ago, there's been an explosion of chains and protocols, and it's crazy. And Bitcoin was sort of the one that nobody was really talking about, or only the maxis, or it was very niche. And I was quite confused by this because in my view, Bitcoin had crossed a chasm. It's the thing that's so simple that our parents and grandparents can understand it and get value from it. And it's the first thing that I saw that any kind of individual outside of a trading or an engineering kind of discipline could use. So I decided to build on Bitcoin.
So would we say that, what really would be that one thing that inspired you to create DLC? What was that, the seed thought that you had?
Yes, so I actually, early on, I made an introduction to a friend of mine, and he ended up building the Chivo wallet for El Salvador. So right when I started DLC, or right before I started DLC Link, they launched that wallet, and they were getting 250,000 daily active users and over 4 million cumulative users in this small country of El Salvador. And that was quite inspiring to see that everyone has access to this now in that country. But then what do you want to do when you have Bitcoin? Cool, you have it, you're holding it, it's gold, but surely you want to do something with it. And I started thinking, well, wait a moment, small businesses are going to want to take loans, they're going to want to maybe invest and earn a yield. And I realized, oh my gosh, there's going to be not only 4 million, but so many billion people in the future who will need to do some sort of investment or finance on Bitcoin. And then I learned about DLCs as a way to enable that.
You just spoke about finance. I want to understand from you, what do you think about financial inclusivity in today's world? How do you think we can work on it, and how can we better that?
Yeah, I live in New York, so I've been kind of we're kind of lucky because we have all these great institutions and there's a lot of systems in place. But much of the world does not have these, easy to access, or maybe for even in El Salvador, you need $50 to create a bank account. But a lot of people don't have $50 just lying around. They're living day to day or week to week. So it's really, that's one of the promises of crypto, banking the unbanked, and everyone can become their own kind of mini financial institution, which is great. And of course, Bitcoin is a very safe way to do that because there are a lot of rug pulls, there are a lot of failed chains, and a lot of projects that don't work out. So betting your money on a safe horse is a good deal.
It definitely is. And, talking about things, transparency and security are really of paramount importance. So how do you ensure that, you achieve both of these things when you function?
Well, the great thing about DLCs is that this is a technology that's built into Bitcoin already. In fact, it's been in Bitcoin for 2 years, and it was created by the creator of the Lightning Network 6 years ago. It was when he first proposed it at MIT. So the transparency, a lot of the Bitcoin values are already built into this. So anything that we do with DLC Link and DLC BTC, our product now launching, comes with that transparency and the security of the full hash rate of the Bitcoin network is securing it.
Perfect. And when we talk about countries, we talk about the kind of governments that are there and the kind of policies that they have. What do you think are the changes that would really help the Web3 market and crypto market move?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot more regulatory clarity. So we work with companies in US, Europe, broadly speaking, and Asia. And it's really the companies out of Hong Kong, Singapore, UAE. They are the leading, they're not just it's not just that they are allowed more permissions, or not just that they can do whatever they want, but they're actually farther ahead because they've been given some space to experiment in, and everything's an experiment. I mean, the United States is an experiment. People don't like to think of it like that, but it's still an experiment as a country. But in these places, in these cities, they've been given an opportunity to run these experiments and to expand and grow their business. Everybody has, of course, a profit motive. They want their business to succeed. And so they learn what works and what doesn't work. And they're far ahead of, as much as I'm in New York, it's a major financial center. But I would argue, unfortunately, not for crypto. The US is behind, New York is behind, it's kept behind by this lack of regulation. The SEC is sort of, I guess trying to do the best job they can, but they're doing a lot of kind of enforcement actions seemingly randomly without explaining. And so what regulators really need to do is they need to understand, like, this is a new industry, it's here, it's already happened, and there are real advantages compared to the old banking system of using spreadsheets, and you can fat finger type a number and now, like, the account has changed. I mean, there's so much crap that actually can be fixed and improved, and they need to recognize the value of that, and they need to really regulate it instead of trying to reject it.
Picking up from something that you just said, this kind of centralization of everything, what do you think are the kind of threats that it can pose to the worlds and countries? The centralization, the traditional forms that we follow.
Yeah, I think, look, there will always be natural centralization in the sense that some companies do better than others, some chains do better than others, some protocols accumulate a lot of deposits, and that poses a risk. But the great thing about crypto, and that any kind of business is susceptible, any industry is susceptible to that. But in crypto, as long as it's on chain, as long as it's DeFi, there will always be that transparency there. And for example, if you're holding a book of assets, you will always know exactly what you're holding or what risks you have, versus the current system, which is 100% opaque. So we're not in, it's early days. There are points of centralization, but they usually get figured out by, the software engineers and the scientists who are working on this stuff, and who are, creating policies to use technology to the fullest to combat that. So I think there's always, even with Bitcoin, certain mining pools can have 30-40% of hash rate in one pool, and but it never quite crosses a threshold to 51%. And so that, when it gets sort of become worrisome, the people in the community who want to see this work, such as myself, we start to think of ways to fix it, and it works out.
And trying to understand a counter perspective onto this, when we talk about this industry becoming mainstream, say in the next 5 or 10 years, what do you think are going to be the major hurdles for us?
Well, I love to, usually when people in software say something, it's either, if it's close, you say 2 months out or 6 months out, and if it's far, you say 5 to 10 years. And it's funny because, these technologies have been around. The basis for this has been around even predating Bitcoin. There's a lot of research, distributed computing, that went into this. It could take decades. It could take 100 years. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows, but it's hard to imagine 100 years. So we say 5 to 10. I realize I didn't quite answer your question, but we're in this sort of flow state. It's very early. Science and technology innovation takes a long time. I mean, I was in AI in 2011, and we built some AI tooling and early machine learning tooling. We also built some natural language generation. And now you have OpenAI. And now I would argue NLG, AI is starting now. And where's AI going to be in 50 years? We cannot imagine. It's going to be awesome. It's actually so great. We don't dare to imagine how great it will be. And that's an AI cycle. Crypto's in an even earlier cycle where it's still kind of techy. It still has a very steep learning curve. Not enough people, not enough developers even in crypto. So I think when we think, 20 years out, 50 years, when we think of, our kids' generation and their kids' generation, I think they're going to be more likely using decentralized systems that are safer and that are, verifiable, versus just sending, money to some institution that may completely, completely blow it up like it did in 08.
That's great. Trying to understand, you a little bit more, if I may so ask, is there a crypto founder or somebody from the Web3 industry that you actually look up to, or you sort of follow them, or somebody who's been an inspiration for you since you've been in the industry for such a long time?
Yeah, quite a few actually. One of the great things about building in crypto right now is there are a lot of people who help you. Even yesterday at the conference or at a side event, I met someone he's been in crypto forever. He explained some things to us we didn't quite understand. I mean, if I'm to name a couple of people, Christian Catalini from Lightspark has been very helpful. He's the one who co-founded Libra for Facebook, Meta, years ago. Now he's at Lightspark doing really cool Bitcoin stuff. Trevor Owens, who's basically a thought leader in ordinals and helped create the whole ordinals movement. He's been an inspiration. Even Josh Felker, one of our advisors, was a high frequency trader, sold his HFT company to DRW, was a partner at DRW. So he's been a trading ops person for many years. But these are maybe not names who are, it's not the Vitaliks and the Balaji's of the world. Of course, they are mega celebrities. But these are people that we have gotten specific help from, and they are incredibly smart, incredibly well connected, and they just contribute their time and resources to help us. And that's the great thing about building in cryptos. You will meet these people.
One more thing that I just want to understand from you is that there are a lot of technologies from the Web3 world that have been implemented into the real world. Any specific technology that you think comes to your mind that you'd want to talk about?
I mean, one thing that we use all the time is payments. So like when we have colleagues in, let's say, the Philippines, and we're trying to international wire the money, that takes 5 to 9 business days and tremendous fees. And it's a real hassle for the recipient too, versus just sending them, USDC, USDT, whatever, Bitcoin, whatever. It happens like this, and they don't need the permission of a local bank or anything like that. Of course, they still need to report on their taxes and all that, so that's kind of another hassle they have to deal with. But I guess they would have to do that anyway. So we need to adapt the accounting system, but that's a much smaller problem than there's the ability to get them, money for their work immediately versus 2 weeks. I mean, if they're paying rent, month to month, 2 weeks is a big deal.
That's right. And one more thing that I just want to ask you is that do you own a Bitcoin, and what is the original price you got it for?
Oh man, well, so I heard about Bitcoin when it was under $1.
Okay.
But I didn't buy it at the time, of course, kicking myself. So then I realized, well, the next best thing is now. So I really started to get into it. I own some Bitcoin miners and all that a couple of years ago, but I'm not like early in that sense by any means. But I thought, I didn't buy a bunch of Bitcoin when it was that cheap. Next best thing, let's build a really powerful protocol on Bitcoin that helps a lot of people, and we also make profit on the side, which keeps our company going. So I'm maybe not early in Bitcoin, but hopefully the earliest in DLC BTC, which is our product. I'm definitely the first person into DLC BTC in our company, being the founder. So that's going to be my Bitcoin strategy.
That's perfect. And how do you think is DLC BTC going to really revolutionize this entire industry moving forward from here on?
Yeah. So basically, WBTC is the most common way to use Bitcoin in DeFi today. It is a top 15 token in crypto, but it has one major flaw, that it's fully centralized. You have to send Bitcoin to BitGo, and they hold it in their vaults. And BitGo is a great custodian, but of course, one centralized custodian cannot hold all of the Bitcoin value. Our decentralized version of WBTC, DLC BTC, we believe it can become a top 10 token in crypto, because it's enabling a decentralized way to get Bitcoin in DeFi, so you can do loans, you can invest, you can do options, earn a yield, just through a more decentralized mechanism. So we're quite excited, and we think that, in a few years as we grow and expand, I think everybody's going to hear about it and many people will be using it.
I surely do feel that this is really exciting. One final thing, my last question to you is one piece of advice that you'd want to give to somebody who's just starting off in the industry, as an investor, as anything. What is the one piece of advice that comes from you?
Yeah, I think, look, I've been writing code since I was 10, and now I'm almost 40. So almost 30 years in writing software. I've been a VC in AI. I was the first person in our fund in Boston to look at AI, machine learning, back in 2011. I've been early in many technologies other than buying the Bitcoin. I've been really early in stuff. And often I feel like I don't understand something. Things are the jargon, things are very complicated. I don't think we talk about that. I don't think as an industry people are comfortable saying, hey, you know what, this stuff's really complicated. I really don't quite understand it. And the only person who does understand how this protocol works is like the founder, and you have to find them on Telegram. And I think we as an industry need to be comfortable talking about that more. We're putting our hand up and say, look, this thing is like, what you just said is gibberish. Can you explain it to me in like simple terms that like a 10 or 15-year-old can understand? So I think we need to kind of like swallow our egos, especially as male founders. That's, I think, more of an issue with males. Swallow our egos and just say, hey, actually, I don't quite understand how this works. Let's create some content. Let's create some explainer stuff. And so just don't feel bad if you don't understand something, because probably nobody else understands it either. They're just not saying it.
That's a great way to put it. So, we are going to actually take that piece of advice and implement it right here, right now. So if there is a jargon that you had to explain and that you think that not many people know, what would that be? I want you to directly address our audience with this one. Let this be a tutorial now for them.
Oh my God. Well, I'll give you one example. So liquidity provider. So we have professional traders and business developers on our team that have been our traders been in the industry for over 20 years. And everyone talks about liquidity provision, and he's like, I actually don't know exactly what that means in a crypto context. So apparently liquidity provision, and I could be wrong, so hopefully someone can correct me in the comments, but liquidity provision is when a company or individual puts liquidity into a protocol, presumably to earn a yield. But is it their liquidity? Is it their customers? What are they looking to do with those? Why are they doing it? Are they charging something? So I think liquidity provision is one of those mystical terms that I only half understand. And even ChatGPT has been helping me. So hopefully if you hear the term liquidity or liquidity provision, now it's still kind of a mystery for most non-experts.
That was perfect. Thank you so much for talking to us, and your entire jargon kind of tutorial is something that I'm going to take forward from here on. I'm going to make sure everybody does that. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Hey, thanks for having me.